Everyone, we're back again with another episode of Before the Switch. Today, we have ourselves a very venerable position, I would say. Someone that I know and is also participating now in Valorant. It is the GM of the Immortals Valorant squad, Packing10. Hello, Packing. How are you today?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
We had some time zone difficulties before this, which is
Little
mostly
bit,
on
yeah.
my part, I'd say. But everything all considered pretty good. Just staying safe. And I imagine yourself, we just had to talk how you're going to build potentially a little home gym because you're
That's the
staying
goal.
inside too, right?
Yeah, cooped up inside for too long. Need to spend the money on something, I guess. So
Yeah, that's true. So, and also something that's interesting is that obviously for those that aren't aware, Packing10 is also the head coach of the LA Valiant Overwatch League team while being the GM of the Valorant squad. So he's kind of a busy man. He's a busy man,
head
very
coach and
diversified.
GM of Valiant, and then
GM of Valiant, that's right. And he's got the GM of that. Of course, he has to make sure to throw as many titles in there as possible.
Just keep them coming. Yeah, there's too many to even fit into Twitter anymore. So it's,
So today we're sort of just going to be running through with you and hearing your opinion, I'd say, on because obviously I'm not joined by Lando or Jane. They are currently out.
Yeah.
They got their CDL stuff and a bunch of other things to be taken care of. So we're going to be just running through today, sort of our one-on-one, feeling our flow of just some of the recent events. Where patch 1.05 just came out, Killjoy. Just sort of doing a survey of the NA Valorant squad before the upcoming Faze Invitational and things like that. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into it with the newest patch. They had just come out with the Act 2, obviously. And now they have patch 1.05, where they added deathmatch, which is a pretty big requested feature. But I feel like there's a little bit of... It's not the deathmatch. I see a lot of players publicly on Twitter saying they weren't happy with its addition because it's sort of not an infinite deathmatch mode. It's like you only play to, 20? 30 kills?
I think 30 is what it is.
It's only 30 kills, and you have to it's not like an infinite mode that's very easy to just stay in and then leave. It's not like CS:GO servers where you can just hop in, play deathmatch the entire time, and then leave once you're done. So it's better than nothing, right? But I felt it was a little interesting that it felt kind of, it just feels weird with a game that has so much CS inspiration where they just limit it to 30 frags, but more of a minor annoyance, you would think, right?
Yeah, I think personally, the thing is they need to. The reason the CS servers are like that is because they're private servers, right? So anything that's public, I assume you need to put a cap on it, right? And people they're going to want to DM and they're going to want to, earn experience and, all that kind of stuff from it. So I get why they did it. Obviously, it'd be great if it was unlimited or if there was a way to do it, to enter an unlimited server or something like that. But it's just great to see them taking the feedback from even from beta, with everybody asking for deathmatch, and they put it in a couple months into the game. You can't ask for anything better than that. So
no, the feedback, that's definitely something that everyone's been, other than nerfing the op so far. That's the only thing I feel like that hasn't been touched.
It's mixed on that too, right? Is the gun overpowered? Is it not? That's kind of debatable, but they're standing firm, saying, "Hey, listen, no, it's not the gun. We're going to put more heroes, more abilities in here, or I should say, more agents, more abilities in here that you could use to counter them." And if that's the way they want to do it, that's the way they want to do it, and that's great. But it's not like they don't have a plan for it, which is awesome, at least on my end, because they've been pretty transparent about that too.
And something that was pretty interesting, because they announced it with the Act 2 changes, is that they also increased the amount of ult points you need to get both Orbital Strike and Showstopper for Raze and Brimstone, respectively, while buffing Viper's ult pretty significantly.
Yeah.
But they announced in the newest patch too that they're also increasing the equip time for Showstopper, and pretty much going to try to make it where it's going to take even a little bit longer to pull it out once it's activated. And they've done some slight graphical alterations to it as well. And then they've kind of nerfed Blast Pack to where it's less of a kill people ability and more of a you destroy abilities and zoom throughout the map as sort of just a way to b-hop quickly around. Do you think those are overall good changes, moving away from making your ult more expensive, making Blast Pack more of a mobility tool and things like that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's frustrating, or was frustrating with Raze, in beta with the 2 grenades, it was a lot of RNG kills and things like that, and just overall upping the skill of the character. If you're using the blast packs more as mobility, or to destroy walls or whatever the case may be, it's way better than just seeing a blast pack come flying across the map and you take 75 damage and you just die. So I think they're pretty good changes. I think the bug about the Razult was pretty funny recently, which I think was why she was disabled yesterday. That you'd pull out the rocket and you'd shoot the rocket and it'd shoot 2 rockets instead. That's pretty terrifying. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, I think overall I like the changes. I mean, obviously we played Raze a good bit, so it's something that we kind of need to think about and evaluate going into these upcoming tournaments. But no, overall, I think pretty good changes.
Well, they haven't really touched much else to her other than like the showstopper change and the blast pack,
Yeah.
right? So the nades are still plenty good, like for where they're at. Like they're obviously still by far the best like ability that can just kill straight up and move someone out of a set position or something like that. So I still think that she's going to be relatively.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the blast packs did get a good bit of kills from pros, but I think a majority of them used it really as a lot more towards mobility anyway. So it would be interesting to see if the rocket changes really do anything, but I think all in all, it's just the right direction. It
is. I mean, also I feel like it's just almost another nerf to Sage Wall too, because now they made sure that the blast packs consistently do 600. So when you're hitting an object, so I feel like this is just yet another nerf to Sage Wall yet again.
Yeah,
do you think that affects Sage at all?
I do. I think it's one of those things. I mean, you saw it through that the 30 bomb tournament this past week. There was a lot of teams weren't running Sage, and that was even before the Raze nerf kind of came through, and then I guess that's kind of a buff against Sage there. But I think a lot of teams were kind of going away from the Sage, and we were still playing it a bit, but I mean, that's another hit on, hey, listen, like you use the wall to deny these areas. If the enemy team has a Raze, it just makes it that much harder. It makes that ability a little bit more useless. And when it's an upped price on it, the duration was a little bit lower, and then now you're saying that an ability can really mess it up pretty quick. Like I said, I think they have the right mindset for trying to do what they want as a company to be putting heroes in and out and actually balancing the game.
I feel like I've been hearing that Sage is going away for like months now, though. It's like when they first started nerfing her, like her slows and also the first nerfs to her also on top of that her wall. Everyone's like, no one's gonna play Sage that much. And then I saw Sage still continue being played like all the way through the packs. It's sort of dipped a little bit, like you said in the 30 bomb tournament most recently. But I'll believe it when I see Sage, because I feel like there's still nothing as strong as the heal and the res, especially when you're just in like even pistol rounds, being able just to heal someone when they take a bit of damage, right? It's just like it's so strong when you trade damage, especially when it's like an eco fight or something like that. Like I feel like I just haven't seen it decrease that dramatically, just a bit by bit.
Yeah, and I think it'll with the more and more agents that come out, and I think Killjoy is one of them, that kind of fills that role with that Sentinel class of the Cypher, Sage, and so on. With more Sentinels coming out into the game, it'll make it a much more replaceable role. But it's one of those things, like you said, having a heal if someone gets dinked. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Reyna's so good at pistols, right? You get one kill and you have 150 HP and on pistol round. You can't really beat that when you're the only one in the server who has 150 HP. It's the same thing with Sage. If something bad happens, if you take an early fight and you get an early kill, but you're damaged, you get back up to 100 HP. That's not a bad gig. Same thing with the res. But as more strategy gets diverse and more agents come in and more teams get really creative with what they want to do and how they want to play the game, I do think she'll be seen in play a lot less. And I don't know necessarily coming into the Faze tournament what the metas are going to look like, especially with the recent addition of Killjoy. But
well, you're just not going to say because you don't want to give up any strats.
I would say every hero is going to be played 50-50. That's what it is. That's what's going to happen in Faze. You'll see some Viper, you'll see some this, you'll see some that. But yeah, I do think the game's in a good place where a lot of agents are viable and on different maps and different archetypes of comps and play styles, and it's really interesting.
That actually reminds me, because you mentioned Viper, because the patch before this, when they actually announced Act 2 and they put out the patch before 1.04, they did like a huge set of Viper changes, especially based around her ult. Do you think, and most of it's focused around, she can see people better, she can exit the ult for longer, the cloud, and come back in before it collapses.
Yeah.
And also increase the decay a bit as well, and then block minimap too. So pretty much just everything making her ult a lot stronger in terms of once you get it out on the area and being able to enter and exit at will. Do you think that's actually increased her viability at all? Because myself, I feel like her key problem still is that unlike Brimstone or New Omen and things like that, you still can't bring smokes and utility to other sites, right? You're sort of just locked in to one site having utility there, which I think still inherently limits like how good she is.
Yeah, we did a lot of talk about Viper when the changes came through. We went into all the maps and kind of tried to figure out like in the server if anything really worked, or for us if we could find anything that would have been game breaking or really helpful. And I mean the fundamental problem of Viper just kind of seems like if you use the wall on attack, it helps the defenders, and if you use the wall on defense, it generally is going to help the attacking team. There's no really great places that you could really benefit from her utility, and I think it was an interesting change. I believe they did the wall. If you have the wall and the orb up at the same time, it's not going to increase the attrition rate for the toxins, but really it's like you have your one ways, which are great, and you can keep them up for a while, but you don't have that long range smoke utility. It's like what role does it really fit into? And like the ult buff is a great buff, being able to stay out of it for as long as you can. But I mean, it's something that I think I don't know if it's necessarily going to be viable, or maybe there's some teams that have been like kind of in the lab like working some stuff up. But it just seems like still a really niche hero and or agent. I don't know why I always call them heroes, but a really niche agent, and I guess if you spend enough time in the server and you figure out quirky ways to make it work, you can cut bomb sites into really unique like geometries, and try to get some better angles for some more favorable fights.
But why would you do that when you could just like play Omen or Brimstone and just being able to dynamically smoke, right?
Exactly. You could smoke onto a site twice with Omen, TP into one that's fallen down, and end up confusing everybody and creating mass chaos. Or you could play a really linear style and try to use Viper in it. I think the Molly changes with her with the fragile was interesting, but I don't know. I don't think it's enough to really see a lot of like permanent play time at least. So
that sort of leads us into, they also released Killjoy recently, which to much I would say chagrin of like a lot of the Valorant community. A lot of the Valorant community were like, are they putting a turret character in my tac shooter? Like people got really upset. And then it comes out, and it's only been out for a little bit now, a couple days, and so from the reaction of a lot of players, it feels like, for me, a lot of her kit isn't nearly too oppressive outside of the ult. So do you have like a different impression where you feel that Killjoy is it a bad thing to have a character that is, not only does she not have any utility again, so she's like that sentinel class where she can't stop ops. We didn't add any more smoke, right? And people have been complaining about ops, so we haven't added any more smokes and things to block op sight lines at all. But we've also added now a character that has the ability to take away your weapons and a turret. Do you think that's like a huge problem from like a game design perspective? Do you feel like it's relatively balanced?
I think I actually yesterday night I played it. Obviously got released yesterday morning, and I played it a couple games last night, and I was kind of getting a good feel for it. And all in all, I don't think the kit is that busted. The reason it seems busted to a lot of people is because nobody's played against it. And nobody understands how to play against it.
So it's like Reyna, like when people reacted to Reyna.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a lot like that with a lot of these different heroes. I mean, even you look at a character like Jett when the game came out. Granted, the dash got buffed and the smokes got buffed, but Jett, regardless of those changes, would have been a good op character early in the game. And just because the fact that you could jump peek somewhere, take a shot, and get out, and there's no chance to get traded. And people weren't really thinking about the game that way. And it's the same thing when a character comes out with this kind of utility. It's kind of like another Cypher. People categorically struggled going B into Cypher on split forever, and still sometimes do. But then people learn that you could break the trips with shocks or nades or this or that or whatever, and really try to play around the utility a lot more and start trading utility and try to trade up on it for late round executes and stuff. And it's been a lot less oppressive. And I think it'll kind of go the same with Killjoy. I mean, the ult. I mean, you have what is it, a 13-second window to kill it, or just get out.
I think it's 8 second, but
is it 8 second? Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
it's 8 seconds.
Okay, yeah. So you have that window to to go in and either like actually clear out the little bongo, or just get out and regroup. I think it may deter people from late round executes if that ult is live. But I mean, all in all, you could fight through that ult. You could fight, like, you do have time to continue to fight for a site or things like that, or you could just play retake. There's a lot of different things you could do with it. So I don't necessarily think it's tremendously broken, but I do think going into the tournament this weekend, I'm sure there'll be some teams that try it. I'm sure there'll be some teams that don't want to put the effort in to making it work off of 1 or 2 days practice. But it'll definitely be interesting, I think, and it'll be great to see if teams can get really creative around both how to play with and against it. Just because the utility is something that's a lot different than what we've ever seen, and it's kind of hard to attack with that character as well, because what is your utility? I mean, you have mollies for post plant that you could put on the bomb, but besides that, I mean,
well, this because doesn't Killjoy's it's still, the molly is still something that's thrown, right? So you can technically still use it for like a set.
You could, but they can break it. So
yeah.
So like that's I guess kind of like the issue. If you have a Brim Molly or a Killjoy Molly, the Killjoy Mollies are great if they're pre-placed, because you could detonate them from anywhere on the map. As well as they're great if you have them for post plant, that you could set up 2 around the bomb site, make sure it's going to be really difficult for them to defuse the bomb, and you could just run across the map and be in Narnia and still trigger it. So I guess uses for it are a lot better than throwing it and trying to clear someone out of an angle, because they could just shoot it and stay there and stay tucked and force you to still figure out a way to use utility to force them out. But that ability, the nano swarm, that's a good one, especially on the defensive side, because you could just stop down pushes really easily, paired with the alarm bot. You find out when someone's there, you hit that, the damage per second is feels amazing, and then the ult is pretty good too. So
yeah, I feel like a pretty overlooked part, everyone focused so much on the turret, when really the turret, I would argue, is like probably one of the least valuable parts of her kit, in terms of like, it just feels to me like it's almost like a worse tripwire to me, because like when someone's there and someone's gonna have to turn around and deal with it, but it doesn't do very much damage, but compared to like having a molly you can place wherever, or even the alarm bot, which is always very useful because it's just like Raze's bot. But for the
what makes you fragile
ult
so
itself,
it's,
I was wondering, I feel like I've seen lots of complaints about the ult, like almost exclusively about the ult, but I always thought it would be much more. I had this conversation with Sideshow and Josh on their show. It's like, I feel like it would be much more useful for attackers than it would be for like defenders, unless you're doing like a site retake,
Yeah, I kind of was messing around with that a little bit last night, and I mean, it's definitely a good ult to attack with, because the defenders don't want to push into your stack to try to break it, so they kind of have to play retake on it. But the same thing kind of went on the defensive side, was you could use it to shut down pushes that are coming in if they're going for a late round execute.
Yeah.
Or if you're going for a retake, you slap it somewhere that's really safe, and you can either wait it out or you could push with it. And generally, if you push with it, people are going to be trying to kite their way out of it and get to some better regressed angles. So you could generally get back in for free without having to trade early kills. But the range on it, it's odd enough. The range on it is, I think, really well designed, because it seems like almost every site, if you're going to retake with it, it doesn't cut off the entire site, but it does give you a majority of the site. So it should give you some free play to get back in, but it's not going to force the enemy to like completely give up 100% of the control that they had. So I think that's probably the most interesting thing, and I could be wrong on that. Obviously, like I said, only had a couple games of playing it and experimenting with it, but I definitely think it's it's something you can get really creative with. And I
Because
think
she's going to be live for the Faze tournament, right? The upcoming Ignition
yeah,
Series
as
one.
far as I know, yeah.
So I feel like I wouldn't be surprised to see teams bring it up there, especially teams like Sentinels where they love to do just wacky stuff with like some of their comps.
Obviously, I like I said, I don't really want to spoil what what we're doing for it or anything like that. But I do think, like I said, there's gonna be teams that try to do it and commit to it. There's gonna be teams that don't and are non-committal, and there's gonna be teams that probably play it on some maps and don't play it on others. I think it's one of those situations of if you can learn it faster than other teams, it's probably gonna be good because you can put that turret in a place where it's a really wide angle that you get information off of that they have to commit to swinging out to kill, or it's going to at least apply pressure to them and allow you to get all that information for free. And like I said, the mollies are really good. I think that's probably the best part of the kit is just those mollies. On bind, you could stop that early sage wall push. You don't need to brim molly over the ABC truck. You could just have one already there. And they want to play. They want to do it. Cool. You did 75 damage to the planter.
Yeah.
And they had to run away. And I think those remote control mollies are. I don't know if they're going to be great if they're just going to be like average. But right now, I think
you can break them with utility as well, right? Or shoot them. Can't you?
I'm not sure about I think you can break them with utility. I know you could for a fact you can shoot them, but I think you can break them with utility. I'm not 100% sure.
So, but either way, there's definitely a way. There's counterplay for them where you're not forced to they're just there for all time. There's definitely something to deal with it. So I do feel like it's going to be interesting to see how, especially since we talked about earlier, how she doesn't have any utility at all outside of in terms of smokes, and people have really complained about op usage at times, and obviously it's a mixed bag, but it's odd to me where they've released another hero or agent, I should say. I'm falling into the bad.
Yeah, I know.
I'm falling into the habits now too. Another agent that doesn't have any utility in a game where a lot of people are decrying ops and the strength of sight lines currently, and just having double op for defense even. So. Yeah. I'm excited to see how she slots into
I think it'll definitely be interesting because, like I said, I think the hard part of the kit, it's kind of like Cypher, but Cypher could do a good job of lurking, on attack, a really good job of lurking. Killjoy, I don't really see that potential to put that in a lurk role because it just Cypher does it better. With the invisible traps and the being able to get information with his camera and put a lot of pressure through those kind of utility.
And he has some of the best smokes in the game.
Yeah, it's really easy for him to be postured in that lurk role, but I don't really see that from Killjoy on attack. But I mean, who knows? I mean, like you said, teams like Sentinels, they're a really creative team, and they always seem to be coming up with with new stuff. I mean, TSM has been doing it too. I mean, they've been I think every tournament they've come out with different comps.
True, yeah.
It's so I don't know if any of them will run it, but it'd be cool to see if how the different interpretations on how to play the hero and what role you put that in, and does that how does it affect your comps and play styles of the team, and does it make your attacks absolute dog, or is it workable? Those are all questions that we'll probably find out in this Faze tournament because I'm sure teams are going to do it. So
yeah, that's going to be super exciting, and also exciting for people outside the esports ecosystem a bit, which I feel like we should touch on because at this point it's a little bit later news, but I still like to hear people's opinions on it. Is the Act 2 changes? They released the graphic design is my passion Valorant act ranking type of logo they have, where they have the Triforce of power, where you slot in your ranks as you play through your act rank in there. And as someone that is obviously you're very plugged in currently while running Immortals, is that do you feel like this has added any sort of visual clarity to ranking up in matchmaking?
I mean. Listen, they came out and they said that they screwed up with the first system. I mean, I know it was pretty frustrating to me. I won 13 games straight and didn't get into Immortal, and finally did towards the end of everything. But I think it does. It provides a lot better clarity, and it shows you where you sit. And the thing that's great is you could see where your friends sit too. Yeah. And you keep in on that, and you could keep it on you keep it on your players to see how much they're playing, and how well they've been doing, and actually check their history and stuff. So I think there is a lot more clarity with it. Obviously I've never kind of seen a design like this, and like you said, it's the triforce of graphic design, clarity. But I mean, it's good. I think it's definitely a better place than sitting there and going, oh, hey, I got 3 up arrows 15 games in a row and I didn't get promoted. Well, what's going on? So I do think it's good, and I mean, I at least like it, and visually it's appealing. So it may help, the more casual players actually want to play, competitive and really put in the effort, because it's like, oh, hey, my friend is, he got the gold or he got the plat, and like, look how cool his like matchmaking tree looks, and I want to have one that looks better, I mean, so I think there's definitely a lot of benefits to it, especially on the casual side of things.
And also having less placement games is always nice, because now they've added the proven skill system where you only have to do like 3 placements, because they can take like your 9th best game and sort of just from the previous act and just lump it into your MMR for the newest one. So I do like having less placement games, and I like that being a lot more clear, because the old arrow system, where it's like small arrow, big arrow, was not
equal sign. Like it's like you get the first game and you get an equal sign, and you're like, what does this mean? Like, what do I? Oh, I played for 40 minutes and nothing changed. Great, awesome, thank you.
Well, okay, I guess moving on to that. So I think right now there's been a lot since it's been a while since we've had one of our installment of our episodes, and a lot has happened, because there's like a tournament every 3 days now in Valorant, which is good in a way, because we've added the Ignition series and Riot's been backing those. And I think there's been a lot of like viewership benchmarks too that have been hit, starting with all the way from Pulse, which hit like that 50K mark finally. And then we got like 80 on PAX, I think.
I'm not sure. All I know is that the last Ignition series, I mean, it was through the roof. I mean, with the viewership, it was outstanding. Yeah. Especially for a game that's only been out for, what is it now, a couple months. It's been great. So.
But I think this is where now we're heading to the Faze tournament, and Faze has sort of finally started to get its roster a little bit finalized after Jason R has been released, and they've added a bunch of the OWL guys. Baby Bay just got announced, and there's the rumors that maybe Raucus is next, but obviously nothing concrete yet has been officially said. So for me, and also looking at this latest 30 bomb tournament, which was pretty rinky-dink and prizeable, but had a bunch of the major teams, I just want to get your thoughts on, where do you feel currently the NA versus EU debate is headed? Like, a lot of people I've spoken to have been very much like the old CS mentality, and they've looked at the games and been like, well, actually EU is just so far ahead, like G2 or Fish123, or even like Party Parrots and Fabrican, which have sort of disbanded now at this point. Like, people have been like, these teams are just so far ahead of the majority of NA. Do you have like a different opinion than that?
Yeah, I think number one, this is why we need this COVID stuff to go away as soon as possible, so we can start getting all these teams.
So we can get cross-regional play.
That's all we need. And it's not only only the European side. I want to see what's going on. We do the best we can. Myself and Gumba, to keep up in tune with what's going on in Korea and Japan and every region possible. And right now, I do. To a little bit of a disagreement with a lot of those people, I do still think that I think these teams in NA, I think there's a lot of great teams in NA. I think G2 is really that's the benchmark of, they haven't lost a game in EU. So I think that's the team that everybody would want to see these NA teams play against. And when I watch the difference in the play, I actually think it's a little bit opposite of the CS thing, where the EU teams are a lot more structured and the NA teams were not, and the NA teams feel very structured with what they play, and maybe the EU guys think differently when they watch the NA teams play, but
I think they definitely do. They definitely feel
for sure. And I don't want to start the riot of NA versus EU, because that's never gets anywhere, but I just think it's it's one of those things. I can't wait for there to be one of these international type events once COVID's done, and just everybody put their money where their mouth is. Like, how good are these top 4, top 8 teams in NA? How good are these top 4, top 8 teams in EU? And you prove who's better. And that'd be a great thing to see, because it seems like all these tournaments, even in the 30 bomb tournament, I mean, Sentinels ended up winning the tournament, and I think we ended up coming in 4th. And our games with Sentinels were like, we lost map 1 11-13, won map 2 13-11, and lost map 3 11-13 or 10-13. Like, the games are so close between all these teams that are on the upper echelon in NA. So I think it'd be really great to finally eventually see an international event once COVID's done. So
I can feel the Europeans malding from like all the. I can hear it. I can hear the collective European mauld already. Even though you were very mild, I think it's gonna get them going. Like especially
I don't think Europeans are very mild on this situation. So it's never been that way in CS. I'm sure it won't be the same in Valorant. So.
And that reminds me as well for like, so obviously the 30 bomb just got played, and before that the PAX, which was the last Ignition series for NA. I do think that there's been a little bit of a shift, like when we went back to like Pulse, a lot of teams were feeling that like Gen.G and TSM were feeling very much towards like that top of NA, and it's past 2 tournaments, Sentinels have won.
Yeah.
And Gen.G has actually bowed out a little early on both. Well, actually not that early. They lost in lower finals. They got to lower finals for the 30 bomb.
They beat us in the lower finals. So.
Yeah, and then they went to TSM and lost to TSM. So a lot of people, including Sentinels, are sort of proclaiming themselves as like the current best team in NA. Do you think this is more? Do you think it's a little too early to call the best team in NA? Do you think the Faze tournament is where they really decide the best team in NA?
I mean, I think the best team's the one that won it last, right? I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, I know sometimes I love the attitude and ego, a lot of these guys bring out, especially the guys in the Sentinels. They seem to have, their little bit of swag, but yeah, I mean, I think the best team in NA, that's the team that won it last. I mean, Sentinels won the last 2. They're the ones you got to beat. I mean, and like I said, we've played them so many times the past couple tournaments. We've won some, we've lost some. They've been super close, but the fact of the matter is, they keep end up winning the close ones, and that's what matters. And I think Shazam and Six, Sinatra. I mean, all those guys, they've been playing lights out. And they're playing confident, and someone needs to stop them. And hopefully it's us, because I'd like to see us do well in this Faze tournament, and instead of finishing in that top 4 category, I end up making the push to actually winning one of these. So
yeah, and I was actually going to ask you about that for your roster too. Is that and generally roster mania? It feels like at this point the roster mania has died down a lot, where most of the rosters have been sort of starting to get finalized. C9 is obviously in the eternal build to build around 10s and then now relics as well. Like this just eternal building process to actually find a squad for them. And Faze is supposed to be unveiling their final roster here for their upcoming tournament. And
should be soon, right? Because the tournament's tomorrow.
Very soon.
They need to get on that.
They do need to get on that. Hopefully they'll have it, like, especially with Jason R gone, I would imagine they have to have their last guy lined up. Which will be interesting. And then there's even the rumors of like Liquid picking up like Fish 123, I think, in EU. So it's all like coming together. But you guys, you've had a little bit of like swapping up, because JC Stanley left for a little bit and then came back. And then also you played in the 30 bomb most recently with Dicey. So for your guys, do you think you've sort of started to settle on a more concrete roster, or is it still just like kind of an open process for you too?
Yeah, I mean, we like to be, really transparent with the guys. If we either don't see what we're not seeing what we want to see, or if there's issues or whatever the case may be. With Stanny, we really wanted to be able to get him to shift over from that lurk rollover into something that he could really call on, because we were getting into these really bad tendencies when he was calling on Cypher to always end up back at where he was lurking, and it made us really predictable, and we lost a lot of games because of it. So when we initially made that change, we wanted to kind of see a couple other people in more of a shot calling role, and we wanted to give him the opportunity to be able to like grind the game, practice, and transition himself over to a role that would be over to a role that would be more conducive for shot calling. And being able to have him do that and go over there was really good, and I think it was great for him and great for the team. And then the last tournament, the 30 bomb tournament, we've been looking for a primary opera for some time, because I think we've signed some talented players, but that's something that we noticed was a glaring hole. And
you got a lot of riflers.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great riflers, but we didn't have that standout op performer. And we were looking at a bunch of different guys, and Dicey was one that stood out. We brought him in, and he's been doing a great job. So he's going to be playing with us through the Faze tournament as well. And we'll see what it looks like. I mean, I have a lot of personal hope and promise for him from what we saw initially with next to no synergy and a couple days of practice going into 30 bombs. So we got an extra week in here to get him up to speed and build some new strategy and play around him a little bit on the op and get him doing what we want him to do on it. And I think he'll surprise some people because I think he's really talented and one of those players that was not really talked about and kind of fell through the cracks. So we'll see how he performs and go from there. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting to see where all these finalized I really just want to see myself, honestly, not just you guys, honestly, since we've had a lot of Overwatch people move over and obviously Packing10 himself, the squad's got to pop off, right? And you guys have been in that building process. So we've been waiting to get there, but I really want to see C9 as well, finalize their roster. Do you think there's ever an iteration of C9 where they have a roster that actually lives up to 10s in their current spot? Is there actually a spot where they could ever make that work built around 10s, or is it always going to be disappointing?
The thing is, 10s is, he quite possibly could be the best player in the game and the entire world. He's one of the few players in this game that you just watch him play and you're like, oh my God, this kid's absolutely amazing. So of course he's going to overshadow a lot of those players on the team, and you need to find the right players to play with him because it's like playing with Michael Jordan or LeBron. They're always going to outshine you. You're always not going to get the credit. The team is always going to be run around that player to because that player is going to make the team successful. So I'm sure they'll find the pieces. I think they've been going in the right direction, and I think they're finding their footing. But yeah, it's definitely a difficult road, and especially for them. It's when you have that kind of talent and you want to put a roster together that's going to win everything. It's not easy. It's not easy building a roster in a new game, let alone ending up with a piece that is quite possibly the best piece on the board. So
yeah.
I definitely think it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And for us, I'm happy that we're kind of getting to a place that we're going to finally end up getting a stable roster that we can actually start building upon, because it's nice that we're doing well in these tournaments, but we need to start getting a lot more synergy between the guys, and we need to start, actually having everybody on the same page and start building up that collective hive mind that we would like to see, and all be on the same page at the same time. So, I think it'll be really good. And like I said, I hope this Faze tournament is a good stepping stone for us. But it'll definitely be tough because there's a lot of good teams in this tournament.
Really good teams. A lot of really good teams. Have you played? Obviously, you don't have to say who it is, but have you ever scrimmed recently this supposed new Faze roster?
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
you have. Yeah. So, what would be if we were to give a sneak peek? Do you think that roster is going to be good? Really good heading in, because it started out with a lot of hype, right? Corey was dropping crazy 30 bombs on the debut, and but it didn't really have a lot of success. Do you think this is going to be a much more complete roster for Faze coming into this upcoming tournament?
I don't think it's any surprise. I think the world of Corey. I think the world of Andre. I think they're they were great Overwatch players. They're great
Andre
people.
being Baby Bay, by the way. Yes, he knows them like that, so he can use his first name. So
yeah. They were great Overwatch players. They're great teammates, and I really think if you put those two guys in the team together, it's scary. It doesn't matter who the other guys around them are. They're gonna find ways to be successful.
They have good people. Marv, I think Marv is incredible and has a lot of room to grow. He's so young.
I think they're doing things right over at Faze. I really do. The fact that their general manager didn't just buy into hey, let's just sign one of these tier 2 CS teams that's coming in, or do this, and he took the stand and said, hey, I'm gonna build it the way I think is right, and if that's with Overwatch players, I don't care if people talk shit about me or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, he goes talk a lot of mad trash about Overwatch players, but 100 Thieves has been doing pretty dog, so perhaps get some more Overwatch players in there.
It's one of those things. We had the philosophy of, hey, we don't care where you come from. If you're good, you're good. We actually tried to sign Corey, and Faze won out on that. But Dicey and JC Stanny were Crunker IO professionals. That's where their background came from.
Wait, they have Crunker IO professionals?
I never knew
I didn't
that.
even know that, honestly.
Neither did I. When they told me they did that, I was like, "Oh, you're joking."
Like,
It's
is it
nope,
professionals and like there's orgs with it, or is it like there's a league and if you win,
it's
you can
like
get a little bit of cash?
I don't. I'm not 100% sure how the scene works. All I know is a lot of people worship JC Stanny as a
That's
god
crazy.
in the Crunker IO scene. So
That's nuts, though.
it's it's definitely an interesting thing. But like I said, I think Infamous has been doing a great job over with Faze, and he's I've talked to him a bunch, and I think they'll surprise people, and I hope they do. I mean, obviously when they play us, they're going to lose, but I hope they do well because I like the guys over there. I think they're doing it the right way, and I want them to be successful. They're good people, and they deserve it. So.
Okay, so I guess then, sort of as we come to a close, because you're a busy man and we don't want to take you too long. You got dog appointments to go to. You got to get to groomers. You have all sorts of stuff. So, final sort of thoughts, I guess, is excluding yourself, because we don't want to have the bias. We don't want to have you throw yourself.
Of course.
What are like the top 3 teams you feel heading into the tournament for this upcoming Faze tournament?
Yeah. Wow. I think it's it's got to be the teams that have been being consistent. Sentinels. I mean, they should be the favorite, right? They've been winning the last couple tournaments. They've been doing a great job. They've been coming up with new strategies and all kind of stuff. So I think they have to be up there. I mean, TSM they're always successful. I mean, probably the long-term most successful team in NA. From there, it's
You got 1 slot left. Use it wisely.
I'm actually gonna go with Cloud9. I think they now sometimes they can be hit or miss with how they perform in tournaments, but
now is this going to be the roster that this 3rd place position is based off the roster they're going to be using for this upcoming tournament?
I think it's just based off of how they've been playing recently. I don't know if they're making any changes to what they were doing, if they're still playing with Vice or not, but I mean, I think that team just has tons of potential. And when you have a guy like Tens on the team that, I mean, they popped off against, was it TSM and, was PAX or one of the tournaments before? And so,
yeah, I mean, PAX, they went to finals. They beat, I mean, they beat you guys early. I think, honestly, they had like a pseudo blessed run in the quarterfinals and beyond, right? Because then they weren't on the side of TSM or Gen G, while Gen G plays Sentinels in literally the first round of quarterfinals.
But I think that was I don't remember exactly what happened with PAX, but that was, I think
they played Homeless right after that too, and they made it to finals.
Yeah, I think that was because Gen G ended up getting 2nd seed in their bracket or whatever. Yeah. So I think maybe they were in our bracket. I don't remember off the top of my head. It feels like so long ago.
Because everything's moving so fast. Since Gen G was in your bracket, you guys got first, and then they got second.
So since they didn't win the bracket, then they ended up having to play Sentinels, and that's, I mean, you call it bad luck.
Tragic.
You call it, bad gameplay because they lost all their some games.
I mean, it was a good game. It wasn't terrible.
I'm not necessarily saying their game against Sentinels was a bad game. I'm just saying them not winning their group when probably people, when they look at that group with us and them in there, they would say 70-30 Gen G should come out on top of that group or whatever the case may be. I think they kind of did that to themselves a little bit, but I think Cloud9, I mean, when they have the players they do, I mean, so much pop-off potential, especially with Tens. I mean, any given day you show up and there's just I forget who it was. It might have been in that PAX tournament, but he was playing a game on Haven, and it's just like, you don't want to be in the same server. He had like 17 or 20 kills in the first 4 rounds, and it's like, what? How is that even possible? Like, the guy's popping off. Sometimes that just happens, and I mean, if they can continue to build some synergy and beef up their strats, and then he has a game, I mean, you never know what happens with them. So I guess those would be the top 3 I'd go with right now, and then obviously us, Gen G, although I think we'll do well, but
you can't place yourself because you weren't allowed to place yourself.
Obviously, we'd be number 0 above 1, so that's where we would go. So
that's only fair. That's only fair. Well, that's I guess we've sort of run out of time for now because we got to get you out of here because you got to go to your 18-hour workday. Go back to the mines with you to go toil about. But we appreciate you coming on, giving your insight about the NA tournament. The Faze tournament, upcoming one for this weekend, is going to be super sick. Everyone should check it out. The Immortals squad rolling out there with Packing, and hopefully new Faze squad. So I think it's going to be really, really cool to see the NA competition sort of solidified at this point. And just check it out. And thank you guys for tuning in.